Thank you, Bill. And so, boy, I don't want to get letters on this and sound negative, but I get disturbed sometimes when I see churches that have people that have finance. Some of them may be retired and have a good income. Some of them have businesses. And they're shutting down their feeding ministries. They're shutting down their ministries to inner city people because of the economic times that we're living in. And the Bible plainly says, he that pities the poor will lend to the Lord, and the Lord will pay him. We have in our ministry ministries that we support that we know. Now, we just don't throw money out there, but if we know them and we've met them, we work through local churches, Church at Liberty Square, the Billtown Road, Evangel World Prayer Center, feeding others. Winchester, Kentucky, a very dear woman, and if you live in the Winchester area, you need to visit her church, Janice Claypool, who takes care of just feeding all kinds of people, and they need support too. But what I was going to say is, we support those individuals, and God has blessed our ministry. And I told some of the staff the other day, it is because we are willing to help those ministries helping people. It's a spiritual principle. It's up to God to bless me then. It's not up to a church, a denomination. Lord, if I was leaning on my denomination, I'd have probably starved to death. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
I'm not going to comment on that one.
But what I'm saying, if I'd have just stayed with them and just depended on them, I wouldn't have done any of this. I had to get out and do what the Lord told me to do.
Right.
And feed people, clothe people, help people, do missions programs, and God then becomes responsible to bless me. And therefore, I'm not leaning on a man. I didn't mean that the way some of you probably took it there, but that's what I'm saying.
Here's what all those things are saying, though, Perry. You have a community. You build a community, you build a relationship, and what brings that relationship together and that community together is His Word, His principles.
Right.
And when we're all living as a community by His principles, then we'll all prosper.
Yeah.
You know, as a community.
Okay, now, form a feed, that's number 3, a feeding clothing center within the church to help those in the church who are in need. Now, watch this. Form a special fund for those in the church who are in need, and also to help others who legitimately need it. The early church appointed a daily distribution for widows, daily, in Acts chapter 6 and verse 1. They complained of the apostles, and the apostles eventually put 7 men over waiting on tables. Now, this was helping to feed and take care of these individuals in Acts 6, 1 through 6. These men saw the distribution of money or food to those who were truly in need. Those over 60 years of age who had been married to one husband, but their husband had died and had no one to care for them, were to receive assistance from the church in 1 Timothy chapter 5. Now, we need to go back and do this the way the Bible tells us, and we'd solve a lot of problems. There is a blessing for helping those in need. Read Proverbs 19 and 17. Number 5, now we're getting into some practical things here for you and your family. I think this is important. I think we need to become as independent as possible from the systems of men. Now, we're talking here, for example, about the necessity of having to have government assistance or government help, federal help, or state help. And we do know that when you retire and you're on Medicare and all this, that's a part of the process, and Social Security is a part of the process. We're not talking about that, but here's what we're talking about. Before the destruction of the temple took place and before Jerusalem was destroyed, the Christians sold all their stuff and they got out because they knew what was going to happen based on Matthew 24, 1 through 3. So they fled to the mountains of Pella in Jordan and built a thriving community. I think that American people have so much dependency upon the system that if anything happens in the high-ups of the system and there's any disruption, they panic and don't know what to do. I would say be as independent as possible from any of the systems that are created in the nation, even though they are a help to you, and learn how to have other sources of incomes, other connections, other ways of doing things, so that if a system breaks down in the system, you're not left standing alone. I could spend a lot of time on that, but let me go to number 6. Ready? Begin to grow your own food, store seed, and know areas where there are fresh water. Now, the reason I'm saying this about seed, and boy, I could open up a can of worms here, is there is a movement now in the government to make farmers use a genetically modified seed that does not produce a seed. And there's a whole can of worms I could open up on this, but I'm not going to do that. As a private citizen, and you have a piece of property, now you have to check in your guidelines, because you just can't go plowing things up in the middle of a subdivision. But do as much as you can of creating your own garden. If some of you heard me talk about Pam, how she takes that straw and puts a hole in it, puts potting soil in it, and she grows these huge plants right in our backyard up against our house. Things like that. Get information to know how to grow your own food, store your own seed, and know where there's fresh water in your area. Now, the fresh water is because of, for example, in Massachusetts, a major water pipe broke and 2 million people were out of fresh water for a period of time. So you have situations where there can be a massive flood and the flood waters pollute the drinking water, so you have to have alternative sources. That's all that's about. Number 7, always plan as though there will be a large storm or a natural disaster in your area. First of all, a food supply. We'll put this list up here. And get food where you can eat out of the cans if you have to in case the electricity goes out. A water supply, springs of water, or the ability to purify your own water. Number 3, a light supply, which includes candles, matches, or light. Number 4, the ability to cook food. You can do that probably with a little propane gas grill or something of that nature, or even a wood grill using wood. Number 5 is the electric. People have heard me talk about this in my meetings. They said, thank you, thank you, thank you, because we didn't have power for 4 weeks in one state, and we had a generator. And we were able, you know, one guy told me, in fact, it's a friend of ours we stay with when we go to Louisiana. They're probably watching this program right now. And they have a generator hooked up in their home, so when the power goes out, and they live in New Orleans, and when that storm hit, the power was out in Baton Rouge for 2 complete weeks. And they had, you know, can you imagine all your neighbors want to come over to your house? Hello, I want to talk to you, because they've got air conditioning still going on when nobody else does. And it was a wise thing to do. Communications is very important in the time of a natural disaster or storm, because you need emergency radios or some way to communicate. And you should also have a route plan that if something major would happen, even a terrorist attack, and you have children at school, you have an escape route. For example, if you live in a city near a chemical plant or something of that nature, that if there were to be explosion there, you would have to get out. You need to sit down with your family and say, okay, if you're away and if you're here and I'm there, here's how you contact me, here's where we meet. And I would also bring you to that was number 7. Number 8, and number 8 is this. Now look at number 8 with me. Keep small amounts of cash in a safe place. Now we're not talking about go in the bank and pull out a couple $1,000s. We're talking about $300 or $400 in 1s, 5s, and 10s, or even 20s. Small bills, and also keep some change extra. Now, we had shared this in Louisville, Kentucky, and a woman thanked me. She said Louisville lost power during an ice storm for 2 weeks, and people were going out trying to use their bank card, and there was no electricity to do the bank cards, so the bank cards weren't available. I had cash, and I was going in with these small bills buying stuff. She said, I even was able to help my neighbors because you had taught us to keep a little bit of small bill cash out. And so that's good to have. Most people have some cash available, but you don't want the larger bills necessarily, because in the event of having to get out and purchase gas, or, you know, a hurricane is coming through or something, people have discovered that when you have large bills, they don't always have change, because everybody's coming in with a 20 or a 50. But if you're coming in with 1s or 5s, you're more apt to be able to get what you want, saying I've got small bills, because the person at the counter is going to want to use the cash, and also having change available. And again, this is just real basic practical things that I have learned in traveling for 33 years. Number 9, provide personal protection. I got a real funny picture here that we used at one of our conferences where Granny's sitting on a park bench and she's got her gun out, you know. And some folks will criticize me for that, but someone said to me, one of the 10 Commandments says, thou shalt not kill, so if you're attacked, you should never attack anybody back. You never should defend yourself. I don't know who came up with that theory. Bill, you know like I do. You know, the word kill there is the Hebrew word retzach, which is to murder. To murder. You shall not murder. The commandment is don't premeditate a murder, don't go out and kill an innocent person. There is nothing in the Bible against defending yourself. In fact, Jesus told his disciples, go get 2 swords. Yeah. Now, Peter used 1, but why did he want 2? Because he knew that he was not going to be with them, and there is nothing wrong with protecting yourself. Now, I'm not telling you how to do it, whether you learn self-defense or whether you have something in your home or something you carry with you, but I'm telling you, people are so crazy. Let me say this. The more economic times get crazy, you're going to have more robberies, more home break-ins, more things of this nature, so you've got to protect your home and your family.